All right, this meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin Stats, such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Call this meeting to order at 11:06 a.m. Roll call shows all members of the committee present, and now we will call for the election of a chairperson, which Jeff said we have to do every time. Motion made and seconded. Jeff, your official chairman again. Do I call for the approval of the minutes or do you?
I can do that.
Okay.
The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the September 4th, 2024 meeting. Did everybody have a chance to go through those? This concerned the
Second.
we have a motion by Kevin and a second by Matt to approve the minutes from September 4th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion is approved. Our next item on the agenda is new business. Jeff Osgood, agent for Quick Trip Inc. and Ben Venue Properties, property owner. Review and recommendation for a conditional use permit application to allow a motor vehicle filling station within a groundwater protection overlay district pursuant to section 17.40.12 sub 3 of the village zoning code. We'll be having discussion and action today. And when we get started, Jordan Yankee, associate planner, has a presentation he'd like to go through.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yeah, I have a brief presentation here, and we do have a representative from Quick Trip in the audience today too to answer certain questions that come up. As Jeff had indicated, this is a conditional use for a motor vehicle filling station within the Groundwater Protection Overlay District. If I could, please recall similar process, different use and different substitution versus relocation of use, but we just had a meeting in September where we convened for another use within the Groundwater Protection Overlay District. So here you see the site location, currently a vacant building, former PNC Bank that I believe most people are familiar with. This is the proposed location for Quick Trip's relocation. Something that was included in the packet that Quick Trip did a good job showing within the documentation, but on the slide here you see very tiny arrows, but you see where the existing Quick Trip is and where they're proposing to relocate roughly 600, 800 or so feet north across Mequon Road. And that is the wellhead protection map. So it's within the same groundwater protection overlay district that they're proposing to relocate. Traditional or our underlying zoning classification or use is a petroleum service station and car wash. Under the wellhead protection regulations, it's classified as a motor vehicle filling station. And this is a relocation of a pre-existing use or facility listed as prohibited within the wellhead protection regulations. There was a text amendment passed a few months ago in front of Village Board, and it does allow for a relocation of a pre-existing facility listed as prohibited under certain stipulations, provided you are granted a conditional use permit. The ordinance I should call out was in the packet, and Quick Trip also did address many of those ordinance stipulations for a conditional use permit submittal and approval. As you saw, a 4.37 acre site, and it comes with a new 11,000 square foot building serving the purpose of a traditional gas station with a one-bay car wash. Here's the site plan that was submitted and included in the packet. You can see a little bit of an odd shape of a parcel, but surrounded there by 3 road frontages. And the rendering that Quick Trip submitted, pretty high level, but included in the packet, so you're familiar. Pretty sure we've all seen Quick Trips in everyday driving. Groundwater Technical Review Committee, purpose, as was the last time, provide scientific technical review on conditional use permits. And your task today, which was included in the packet, is to review, ask questions, ultimately form a recommendation on the relocation of a pre-existing use that's prohibited by the ordinance to the Plan Commission. With that, the documents to consider, you see them up on the screen, but we're also called out in the packet and by Quick Trip in the documentation included. So with that, that was a brief overview, but can take questions, discussions, and then the applicants here, I know, to respond to any technical questions as well.
Thanks, Jordan. I'll lead things off by bringing your attention to the one of the handouts was it's labeled Wellhead Protection CUP Checklist. What I did is go through the Wellhead Protection Code sections that are applicable to this application, and I pulled out those parts. I listed them under section 17.40.11, conditional uses on the first page, and 17.40.112 on the second page, provisions and requirements for pre-existing uses or facilities requiring a conditional use permit. Those apply in this case because of the proposed relocation of the prohibited use. In that document, on the right-hand side are the references to the documentation provided by Quick Trip to where the particular requirements or items discussed are can be found. And almost all of those can be found in another handout that was provided, the Quick Trip conditional use permit request, wellhead protection, a document dated October 11th, 2024, and it's approximately a dozen pages or more in length. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to look at those two documents, because that's pretty much what we're talking about today. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is to go through the checklist and discuss what the requirement is and whether we collectively feel that that has been satisfied. And before we jump into that, does anybody have any other questions at this point? Okay.
Is the October 11th the most current version?
I believe so.
You're referring to the Quick Trip document?
Quick Trip document. yeah.
Correct. That would be the most recent.
Okay.
So on the checklist, beginning at the top, 17.40.11, sub 3, all requests for a conditional use permit shall be submitted in writing to the Germantown Village Planning and Zoning Department and shall include all of the following items, and they're listed A through E: a site plan, a business plan, an environmental assessment report, an operational plan, and a contingency plan. All of those items have been provided in the various sections of the October 11th document. Does anybody have any comments or questions about those particular items? In my opinion, all of those items that are required have been provided. Under 17.40.11 sub 3. We have a site plan, we have a business plan, we have an environmental assessment report, we have an operational plan, and we have a contingency plan. I should point out there is a separate environmental standard operating procedure spill response plan that was provided. It's rather lengthy. It's 62 pages in length. I do have extra copies if we need to go through that for any particular reason.
Jeff, if I may, in reviewing these documents, I'm supportive of the work, given the criteria for section 1740.11 and 1740.12, where the equipment is being replaced and improved with best available safety technologies, and that the site is being, it's ultimately being relocated, but the existing site would not cause groundwater contamination. So we could go through each one of these individually, but with all the information that's here, I'm generally supportive of this.
Okay. Yeah,
I would actually agree. In fact, the documentation that I received and reviewed is actually some of the best that I've ever received or reviewed from any business in the village.
yeah, I would agree with that too, frankly.
So with the support of the fire chief, I'd be willing to make a motion on behalf of staff to recommend this conditional use permit be considered for approval by the planning commission and village board, given the applicant has laid out this information in such detail and adhered with, as long as they follow the criteria of the ordinance as laid out.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Kevin and a second by Fire Chief John Delane to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the applicant complying with their own information they provided as part of the application and other village regulations. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that the information was actually so good that I attached it to their plan in our vehicles to use as part of our pre-planning process. So we have contacts and information, which is very rare.
I would ask one of the items on the checklist on the bottom of the first page, sub 6, says the Germantown Village Board shall decide upon a request for a conditional use permit only after full consideration of the recommendations made by the Groundwater Technical Review Committee. Any conditions above and beyond those specified in conditional uses subsection 5 above that are recommended by the Germantown Groundwater Technical Review Committee may be applied to the granting of this conditional use permit. So the question is, are there any additional conditions or requirements that the committee would like to see or attach to this conditional use permit in their recommendation? Paul?
So one of my comments I had, and I'm sorry, but the print I made did not have the utility site. I didn't see it in your packet, Jeff, but it was for the upgrade of the connection tie-in at the water main. New water shut off at the property line.
Okay.
I had that as
so
part of my review.
I would build off of what Paul is saying. So subject to a condition that the engineering memo, include the utility comments, and that be included as part of the conditional use permit approval. So it would be in our typical review process for engineering staff to provide a memo. And then part of that would include the water utility, as well as there's a stormwater component where it shows a connection to a catch basin. And I know that's not related to the groundwater at this point, but having that connection be made to a stormwater main instead. So
Do you
my-
think, I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't
like-
mean to interrupt. It sounds like those comments would pertain to the site plan approval and more typically would be attached as part of that as opposed to the use of the site for the vehicle filling station. So I guess I'm just asking, would it be more appropriate to require those plans and those particular connections and replacement of a connection to be made as part of the site plan approval versus the conditional use permit at this point?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, as long as it's covered, I'm good with it either way.
Okay. So with that, then we'll just leave that to be addressed as part of the site plan application, as is typical for that sort of thing. And I guess move forward with a motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit with no additional conditions at this point. other than those required under 17.40.11 sub 5, which is embedded in the code itself.
Sounds good.
So we have a motion, we take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed? Motion passes. With that, our next order of business, before we go to adjournment, I'm sorry, the gentleman for Quick Trip, did you want to say anything before we move forward? Yeah, and I appreciate you coming out today and particularly providing the information that you did. It was very thorough and it made the review very easy for us. And your willingness to comply with the requirements, arguably fairly stringent, including the deed restriction on the current property, that sort of thing. But that's great. I appreciate your efforts. With that, motion to adjourn. A motion by Fire Chief Delane, a second by Public Works Director Matt Mortwood to adjourn. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thanks for coming out, guys. I appreciate it. We've set a new bar, I think. So the next one comes in, we'll hand them the Quick Trip packet and say, this is what you need to provide.
Copy this.
That's a good thing, Andrew.
Right?
Oh.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for.
I'll look at that. I'll take it back. See you.
Hey, it was a nice trip, man. Nice to come
Yeah,
down.
thanks, Kevin. Yeah.
You drive from
Us? Yeah. We had to have a representative, we.
Well,
questions
I
come up.
didn't make you come, but it's always, if you guys are able to.